How you doing, guys? It's Kevin, man. Back on YouTube. I know it's been a while since I uh, made a video. I apologize about that. Um, yeah, man. I'm coming fresh off the holiday. It is now November 30th, and I'm full of turkey. So I hope everybody enjoyed the holiday with their families, and it was I know it was awesome for me. You know, but anyway. I've decided to title this video Evidence of a Creator. Yes, Evidence of a Creator. I'm going to be providing some evidence to back up that God really does exist. Um, yeah, because there's a lot of deception out there, and a lot of people don't really believe in God. And, you know, maybe there's Christians out there who used to not believe in God, and then they've come to believe in him. But anyway, man, I just wanted to do a couple videos on the subject because I think it's very important for us to know evidence that points to a creator. Just not believe just to believe. I mean, it's cool, but it's awesome if you provide evidence uh, for their God existing, and not that you provide the evidence, but there's evidence that exists. We don't provide it, of course, but I mean, it's all around us. So anyway, man, I just want to get started. Um, Now I did my research and took a few hours. Took a lot of research to really, know how to put this in words and really to write out what I wanted to say and really, put things into my own words from the sources that gathered on the internet and things of that nature. Um, so let's get started, shall we? Alright, so first of all, I want to tackle evolution. I know there's a lot of evolutionists out there who don't believe in a creator, and I know we're all being taught evolution in our schools, and we're just taught to take that as truth because they say that that's fact. And you know, as I dig deep and discover things and look into things that they taught me in school, I come to realize that a lot of things that they said, or a lot of things that the teachers taught, it wasn't exactly all the way truthful, you know. And evolution is one of those things. So I just did some research on it, and provide you guys with some evidence, some things that I discovered on the subject. So Mr. Charles Darwin, he is, of course, I think he's the one who originated the evolution theory, if I'm not mistaken. I know it comes from that guy's brain. I mean, they look at him as the founding father of evolution. If he wasn't, I don't know who was, But anyway, I found out that some discoveries that his theory requires was fossils and transitional forms. Um, and of course, I think I found out that the fossil record completely contradicts Darwinism. And basically, he explains the origin of life with two unconscious natural mechanisms, and they are natural selection and random changes or mutation. And problem one that I found out with that was the systems that are considered the products of the two unconscious natural effects possess incredibly complicated structures. Um, like organisms, like we as human beings, the cell, speaking about the cell, let me share a quote with you. I'm all over the place. I'm trying to do good with this. He says, this is a Charles Darwin quote. He said that If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. But I can find out no such case, end quote. And, we've come to realize that, you know, he thought that, the cell theory, the theory in biology that cells form the foundation, the basic unit of all living organisms. All organisms that have been recognized as alive are composed of cells. And basically, he said if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed, which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. And we find out that in the 20th century, man, we find out that the cell is very complex. And the cell was thought to be simple, but now it is considered to be a vast, complex machine. So that right there, he said his theory would absolutely break down if you found out that anything was complex. And we found out today, in this day and age, that the cell is a complex machine. So his theory it does what he said. It breaks down, But I'm gonna get deeper into that. The definition of natural selection. He said it was a principle by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. There were two biologists. And they say that organisms that have better adapted to their environment tended to survive longer. And better adapted organisms tend to reproduce more than less well adapted organisms. They predicted that over time, favorable traits which are inheritable would become more common. And of course, the definition of evolution is the process of mutation followed by natural selection. And there were some problems with that. Problem one: the systems that are considered the products of two unconscious natural effects possess incredibly complicated structures. Basically, all of this around us now, an organism, period, it's way too complex to have happened just by natural selection and evolution or mutation. It's way too complex and complicated. I mean, it couldn't happen the way that they're saying it happened. The origin of man. I mean, it couldn't have happened that the way that they're saying that the origin of man took place. It couldn't happen that way. It's too complex. After this, Darwin applies the concept of reducibility, which claims that these systems can be reduced to very basic states and may have been developed by stages. Each stage gives a living thing a little more advantage and is therefore chosen by natural selection. Then later, there will be another small chance development, and that too will be preferred because it affords an advantage, and the process goes on in this way. Basically, you're basically saying when there's an organism, and that organism, I mean, it has to it's a process, basically. It's an evolutionary chain. The organisms have to be provided the advantage, like something to give it an advantage, and they keep going. It's a chain. It's an everlasting chain that keeps, this organism develops into that organism develops into this organism, and maybe something started off crawling, and then over time they develop wings and they can fly. The problem with that is that the Darwinist theory requires all the stages from one point to another point to be individually advantageous in an evolutionary process or chain from A to Z, which means all of the intermediate changes, like the letters in between A and Z, like B, C, D, E, X, and Y, they have to be provided and shown for the living thing today or the living thing in question. I mean, I have yet to see a skeletal form of something that really they say existed but hasn't been proven to exist. Like, we have yet to find a half ape, half man skeletal remain, or, you know, anything. We have to have all of the stages from the organism from one point to another, from A all the way to Z. We don't have that, and that evidence is yet to be provided for. So yeah, anyway, that's part one of my video, and I'm gonna break this down into sections, and I'll be back with part two.